got William in California. How are you?
Hey there, can you guys hear me okay?
We can. Yep. Welcome to the show.
Okay, I had a question for you. I just wanted to ask, this leads to another question, but I wanted to know your opinion or what your thought is on where blacks and whites came from. Did they come from the same ape?
Sorry, well, I didn't hear you.
I wanted to know if you feel blacks and whites came from the same ape.
From the same ape. All humans share a common ancestor, so yes.
Okay, so
an
did
ape-like
black and white diverge from there, and maybe perhaps one was more advanced, they evolved faster? Because I don't see them evolving the same progression. How does that happen?
I don't. Okay, so I don't necessarily know what you mean, because evolution isn't a ladder. There's no goal. There's no more evolved or less evolved. So the concepts that you're talking about just don't make sense in the light of the science. Evolution isn't a ladder. There's no goal. There's no more evolved or less evolved. There's no goal. 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 There's no ladder. There's no goal.
How did whites and blacks? How did they diverge? How do we have blacks and how do we have whites?
They're just variations among the same race. I don't think that we've evolved any differently.
Yeah, I mean, we evolve, and there are changes that take place, and one of those changes, probably due to isolation, population isolation, is skin pigmentation. Why are you just focused on black and white? Why are you just focused on black and white? It's because, first of all, there's an incredibly broad spectrum of ethnic diversity on the planet just among humans. But that doesn't say anything about who's more evolved or less evolved.
Well, what I'm trying to ask is how did white and black people come about? Because if they're from the same ape, how did we get black skin and how did we get white skin?
The same way we got people with, different shaped eyes, the same way we got people with different body types.
Right, diversity. We have to have a genetic code for diversity. But how did we get black and white skin if we're all from the same ape?
I just told you. The same way that we got all the other changes.
So you're not giving me a concrete answer. You're just saying, oh, there's just changes.
Are you looking for me to say that 650,000 years ago this one tribe split off and their skin darkened, and I can't pinpoint an actual location or time, but we know from genetics that all human beings, black, white, and otherwise, share a common ancestor.
How can we prevent, if someone wants to say, if history repeats itself, how can we prevent racism if everyone believes in evolution where it's just up in the air, you can just choose whatever you want to believe?
You don't just choose what you want to believe. Belief's not a simple choice. Evolution has nothing to do with racism. 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 Racism is a prejudicial view of ethnicities that are based on biases that have nothing to do with...
Look. I want to give you a scenario that happened just 100 years ago. When Darwin said that the Australian Aborigines were descendants of an ape man, we had explorers go out there and they killed thousands of men. They were called skull hunters. They killed these guys and brought them back to zoos. And on display for people to look. We have some of the skulls in museums. And you guys sit there and talk about the Salem witch trials, which they make recommendations for that.
William.
Yes.
Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. There's nothing about Would you shut up and let me finish? Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong. Darwin was wrong, and the people who did that were wrong.
They did.
Would you shut up and let me finish?
Go for it.
There's nothing about evolution, properly understood, that leads to that.